It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC Director of Operations, Julie Evans. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to work in professional sports?
Sure. I think I might be a little bit unusual that I think this is sort of a surprise for me. I'm in my fourth season with the club and previously had worked in events, essentially executing events prior to this role. So I would say that I did not spend a majority of my life wanting to work in pro sports, but I'm happy that I'm here and think that my past experiences have sort of build on that.
What was your time like working with tickets?
Sure. So as I said before, this is my fourth season. So when I first started, I was brought on in an account manager role, which is essentially I'm selling tickets, group sales, was executing a fair bit of merchandise at the time. And, I think, instead of what it's like, I'll share why it's important that, no matter what happens or no matter what role that you serve in an organization, you should be forward facing in terms of sales and customer service. So I think having everyone respect and have a little bit of time in ticket sales is super important, because what those guys do is really hard. And without them, none of this makes a lot of sense. So you got to get those fans and butts in seats. So during that time, I think I'm just focused on the I will say I might not have been the best salesperson, but was more a match day execution minded. So meaning if we sold a group sale, I was more on the forward facing end of that, like getting them there, making sure those groups were taken care of, making sure they knew where they needed to go. So I hope that answers the question, but that was sort of my time in tickets.
What was your role as the operations and community relations manager?
Sure. So when I was working in on the ticket side of things, I did have my hands on a number of projects that would be considered more community relations focused. Managing ticket donations, trying to get out more groups that would fit in alignment with certain theme nights and things like that, essentially connecting to community organizations to what we already had going on. And that sort of translated when I was very fortunate to be given more of a leadership role in operations, which is essentially at that time was more specifically match day equipment management and team administration. And at that time, when I was transitioning out of ticket sales, they thought, well, I had my hands on a lot of community relations projects to sort of continue in that role. I'll be completely honest and say during that time, the club was in a lot of transition, still is, to be honest, but in a good way. And I would say that while my title did have community relations in the or it did have community relations in the title, it was certainly a club-wide effort to start community initiatives, bring in groups that would be impacted by our theme nights, some charitable giving, ticket donations, building out a kids club, which would be a free ticket for 12 and under for a certain night, and sort of building out the programming there. Still need growth in those areas, but I would say all of those efforts when I was in that role were really club wide. So sales had hands on it and other staffers had hands on it as well.
Of course, what is the day in the life of an operations manager on game day?
The joke that I normally say is it's a lot of stroking out. But a day in a life is normally trying to make sure all of your prep is done prior to the game. so that you can have a smooth and functional game day. So that's connecting with your vendors, your concessions, your merchandise, your Gotham FC are renters at venues. We do not own and operate our own venue. So it's making sure you have really great relationships and connecting with the venue operators that that you're headed towards. In the past, we played at Rutgers University. Now we play at Red Bull Arena. We had a couple games at Montclair State University. So it's making sure you're really communicative and organized with all of their stadium policy procedures, and making sure when your organization comes in to run a match day, that you're very much in line with the timeline and the sequence of events leading to the final whistle. So on match day, it's normally gathering our individuals, making sure they have an understanding of what key timeline functions are going to happen, making sure everyone knows what they need to do to make sure those timeline elements happen, doing a ton of problem solving, supporting our sales team and on these sales initiatives that they have, and making sure people get in safe and that timeline happens, essentially.
Of course, you said that you share with Rutgers on their home field. What is it like for a professional team to share a college soccer field?
Sure. So we played at Rutgers University up until 2019, and we had 2 games in 2019 that were at Red Bull Arena, and then in 2020 the league took kind of a pause, and we went to Utah to play essentially a cup tournament style at the hosted by the Utah Royals and the National Women's Soccer League. And then we did play a couple of games at Montclair State University with the intention that now our regular season just started on the 15th, and our games will be played at Red Bull Arena. So, spanning from Rutgers all the way to Red Bull Arena, some of the things that I would say is what, in terms of what is it like? Sometimes it's hard. It is difficult to essentially bring your entire organization into a venue without it being your so-called permanent home, so to speak. That being said, that doesn't mean that it's not possible. And all my sort of view on it is building as many good relationships as you can will make those experiences go so much better. And that means knowing, if it's Rutgers, it means maintaining and regularly dropping in on we had an incredible event manager there named Paul Bianchi. I was wondering if he's still there, but it's maintaining a great relationship with the Department of Athletics, the event people that might be working with you, making sure you're maintaining good relationships and checking in with your concessions providers, your security providers, and basically making sure you let them know, hey, like, we need you. You serve an important purpose for us on match day, and we value you, and making sure that that's a really important part of what you do. So it all comes back to relationship building, finding ways to work together, having, keeping as communicative as you can, and making sure you know everybody's names. And I think it goes a long way in creating ownership for the venue that you're playing in, if that makes sense.
Of course, with COVID being a big factor, how important is it when you are sharing venues, such as with a college team, you make sure that, like, let's say Rutgers might have a game Monday, but then you might have a game Tuesday, and then let's say that team canceled for some reason, and now they have to do it on Tuesday. How important is it when it comes to that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair question. So again, we have really left I know you're using Rutgers as that example. I'd love for you to use Red Bull Arena. We departed Rutgers in 2019, but they certainly served a purpose or certainly served us well for the years that we were there. When it comes to COVID, I would say it's less in terms of game scheduling. We are a pro team. We play in the National Women's Soccer League. Schedules are coordinated, or a very large coordinated effort. And I think in college athletics and for a pro team, I would say that If a game were to be rescheduled for some sort of COVID incident, like say they couldn't play the game because there were known COVID cases and they needed to reschedule, they would not ask for a schedule change for someone who already has that date held, if that makes sense. So if we have a game on that Saturday, we're not going to get bumped unless there's and whether it's at Montclair State University, where we played in the fall and actually a couple games this spring, or at Red Bull Arena, we wouldn't be bumped. I mean, unless there is an act of God, but normally that would be our, weather delay, weather cancellation, extraordinary weather cancellation, or in the case of COVID, known COVID cases that would cause a rescheduling of the game. So I would say it's less for our challenges. It's less about that date getting scheduled and more about the everyday. We train with the New York Red Bulls, we train at the New York Red Bulls training facility in Whippany. We share a building with the USL team here, Red Bulls 2, and we have to coordinate being at the building at different times. And sometimes there's actual to your point, there's conflict there. Like, a coach just can't say, hey, can we train? USL can't say, oh, hey, we'd rather train in the morning. Is that okay? Or we go, hey, we'd rather train in the afternoon. Is that okay? Why? Because we have to be in the building at different times. So I would say training environments are probably more where you're going to see those COVID conflicts on the everyday, if that makes sense.
What are some of the community relations things that you have done for the New Jersey, New York?
Sure. So, our organization, our front office is very tiny. We all serve a role in our community relations and sales initiatives. This year has been difficult because, we started the year not knowing what we were going to do with fans. So maybe to backtrack, I'd love to share that during the pandemic, we, as an organization led by my general manager, Elise LaHue, really buckled down and found as many ways for us to go digital as possible. And that engaged with our regular paid season ticket members, but also engaged with anyone in the community. We did do some charitable initiatives during that time. It was so lovely at the very last year prior, when we had that time of shutdown, so to speak, we basically ran mini stay-at-home games that had connected to some theme nights and had some programming surrounding them. Specifically, our Sensory Friendly and Inclusion Day, we did a couple of programmatic things surrounding that. Through that sort of shutdown, through our Challenge Cup, which was our tournament-style season last year into this year, I am not specifically stewarding community relations functions right now. As I said before, it's sort of hands-on across the organization, primarily with our two sales staffers, Matthew Berner and Cassie Varvaro. And, this year, I think we need to share with our fans our theme nights, which are forthcoming, and a lot of community initiatives will be sort of coming out of that. So, in the past, we've had a Pride game that's had a community beneficiary. We've had our players are really passionate about animals, and we've done a fair amount of community auctions to benefit local animal welfare organizations. And I think this year it's been a little bit difficult because we have COVID and we have restrictions, right? So we're starting the season without thinking, is it appropriate to bring, to invite organizations and group sales out to our concourse? Probably not. That being said, a large portion of our community relations has actually been stewarded by our players this year. They have started and you'll have to forgive me, I PCOC, Players Community Outreach Committee. That's it, Players Community Outreach Committee. So our own players have stewarded some incredible, I'd encourage you to look them up, but they've stewarded some incredible COVID safe community initiatives. We spent a day doing, and I'm absolutely heartbroken to say I am blanking on the community organization that our players organize, that we assist in essentially a day of service with packing and helping to organize for food distribution for area families. Our players have been in the community. A couple weeks ago, went out and assisted with Meals on Wheels. Again, so in a socially distanced, thoughtful way. And I know that they have so many other things on the horizon that are really important to them. And as much as I like to say at one point my title had community relations in it, I would not say I'm the driving force of that at our club right now. It is more of a group-wide effort, but right now our players are really leading the way for our organization.
Of course, what are some of the theme nights that you have?
Oh, I will say that we're actually internally working on that right now. Our regular season schedule has been announced and our staff is working really hard on making sure we have thoughtful programming for this year. I'll share in the past, our organization has always made sure to have a Pride night. That's super important to our fans. We have, I think for the past 3 years, done a Champion Women Night, which has honored local women in our community. That's been a theme night. And then I would imagine that we would revisit some of our animal. In the past, we've called it Petapalooza. Some of our more animal welfare focused theme nights as well. And coming through all of the members of our community and have that be represented in our theme nights. So I don't want to show our cards too soon, but I'm sure in the next week or so, you'll see some theme nights and some surround programming from us.
What is something that you learned now that you didn't know before becoming a community relations and director of operations?
Sure. And I want to make sure I'm giving credit to where credit's due. I would not say at this particular point in time I have a leadership role in community relations. Just want to give that credit to our sales staffers who grind every day and have the player commitment being the director of operations. Working in, I'm sure you've heard this from others, that working in pro sports is not for the faint of heart. I'm working in the National Women's Soccer League, which is still an emerging league, is not also for the faint of heart. There is a serious and incredible grind that goes on behind the scenes. So to that point, I don't think what I've experienced in this league is I've experienced working with directly in my club and colleagues around the league showing up and supporting each other and realizing that no one job is a silo and we all have the opportunity to impact, support, and give feedback to each other. And the front office at Gotham FC is incredibly versatile in what they do and serve many roles, and it keeps our train moving. And they certainly support me on match day, and we sort of make it vice versa, where it's I'm going to make sure I do whatever I can to help get that a sales initiative represented on game day, and in turn they're going to help us get that game day set up, right? On the flip side, in terms of colleagues around the league, having really good relationships with people in similar positions in different teams is absolutely crucial, especially when it comes to team travel and then people coming into your market. I can't tell you how often colleagues of mine around the league are like, I'm having a problem. What should I do? What do you do? Or how do you, I'm stuck on this. I'm spending thousands of dollars in bag fees every year. How are you handling these bag fees? I mean, the list is endless. So to put sort of a thesis on this is that I have never experienced before the level of all hands on deck in such an incredible way, as well as sort of this support and non-judgmental feedback from others in the league. So I wouldn't have ever guessed that this would be something I would experience, and I think it's invaluable. And I wouldn't have known that before I got in. So hopefully that shares that.
What advice would you give future people looking to work in professional sports?
I think that when I have experienced connecting with young folks and interns, I've experienced that people have a super defined idea of what role they want in an organization. I would say that if you're really passionate in working in pro sports, that you have an openness to accepting a role that might be outside of your area of interest. I think specifically sales. I think a lot of folks who get that sports management degree want to jump right into operations and but they're only finding that sales positions are open to them. I would say that having an openness to go for and accept positions that are outside of your initial area of interest is super important, because you just never know. And I've seen way too many people in this league and heard of colleagues that have started in sales and ended up running games, or have started, running games and ended up, transitioning into marketing. I think it's about especially in a league like the NWSL, I would say that it's more important to have the right people than the person who has all the answers and all the experience, if that makes sense. So you never know who you'll meet. You'll never know how that one experience builds on the other. Have an openness to take a position that might be out of your area of interest.
Listeners find the soccer club on social media along with you.
Yeah, of course. I thought you said soccer anything. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at gothamfc.com or at gothamfc. And then you also can find us on our website is www.gothamfc.com.
Thank you again.
I think we have a TikTok too. Just throwing that out there, Gotham FC as well.
Thank you again, Julie Evans, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as Director of Operations.
All right, take care. All right, thanks, Brandon.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at @talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Julie Evans, for your interview, and best of luck.
Yeah, likewise. Okay, take care.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.